Oh no. Hopper's gonna kill you.
1, 2.
Oh, Terminator Man! Don't you hurt Joyce. Oh god. Oh god. This is terrifying.
Don't be afraid. It'll be over soon.
Look at all that. Such an alien. Oh!
Play this, you ugly piece of shit!
The firecrackers! Hey! Get away from Billy! Get away from Billy! Whoa! Oh! I prefer this. Oh, good lord. Oh, she cannot see this again. She can. Joyce, you can. Oh, God, no!
7 feet. You told her the wave was 7 feet. She was pretty. You were happy.
Oh, God, oh, God. Oh, damn! Come on, Billy. Do something heroic. Oh. Don't look. Don't look, honey. No. No, no. You're not gonna kill Hopper. You're gonna kill Hopper. Oh, no. Oh. Hello. Oh! How is he still alive?
Billy, wake up. Billy, get up. It's okay.
I'm not buying.
Where's Jim?
Paul Reiser? Yep. Hi. You are late. Not quite close. Oh no. Oh no. Time jump.
Welcome to Hawkins, Indiana. A wonderful place to grow up, to raise your family,
No.
to walk your dog.
No.
But this was not this small town's first brush with tragedy. Mysterious deaths, government cover-ups, a bizarre chemical leak, Is it all linked?
Yeah.
All a vast conspiracy? The fault of a disgraced corrupt mayor?
Ah.
There's something more going on in the heartland.
His
Can
face.
the town itself be cursed?
I mean, they're not wrong. Let's be honest. Why anyone is still there is like...
Three favorite movies, go. Go.
Favorite movies.
Did I stutter? Animal House, for sure. Eyes on Me, Harrington.
Oh my god.
Star Wars? Which Star Wars? One of the teddy bears.
Empire. Wrong.
You start Monday. You start never.
Aww.
The ladies will come in just to see him. They'll come in droves. Droves, Keith. These ladies are hot. They're so very hot. And there are too many of them for little Steve. He needs assistance.
Oh, Steven. Yes.
Still got it?
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes.
Will unfold behind the clouds.
Did we get that verse right? It's unfold behind the clouds?
Yeah, but you're butchering it, so could you please stop?
Turn
around. Look at what you see. In the mirror of your...
I'm gonna try.
They'll come back.
Remember that day you were talking to Max?
I don't think I follow.
You talked about your feeling.
No, it's just heat of the moment stuff, and we were arguing, and I don't really remember.
Just say it.
What did I say exactly?
I love you too.
Aww. Aww. They're growing up, but they're still so cute.
It's the speech Hawk wrote for you and Mike. Speech. He never talked to you, did he?
No.
That's why it's important that we set these boundaries moving forward so we can build an environment.
He tried.
The truth is, for so long I've forgotten what those even were. I've been stuck in one place. In a cave, you might say. A deep, dark cave. And then I left some egos out in the woods, and you came into my life for the first time in a long time. I started to feel happy. But I know you're getting older. That's what scares me. I don't want things to change. It's just not how life works. And sometimes it's surprising. Happy. Keep on growing up, kid. Don't let me stop you.
She's nerdy.
Stay. But please, for the sake of your poor old dad, keep the door open 3 inches.
Are you okay? Time to go. Yeah. Minute.
Damn, she's good. She's making me cry. Aww. Oh, God. Wait. Is there... Did he go into the upside down? He went to the upside down. Russia. I thought with the little flakies that he had gone into the upside down. Clearly not a resort. Release the Kraken. it looks like the Demogorgon. But CGI Demogorgon. No, Demodog. Same thing? I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Oh, Demogorgon. Alright guys, that was the final episode of Stranger Things Season 3. I apologize for the crap lighting. I was really pushing it, recording the reaction towards the end of the day. And then I found out too late that the episode was extended. I really couldn't do it any other time, so I'm sorry that the lighting was crappy. And of course, then I didn't have time to talk about it right afterwards. So here we are. I took a lot of notes. So I want to talk about the episode, but I will probably also talk about the season in general. I always like doing a season wrap-up or review, but I think this video, it's going to be in the same thing. So I'll start with some of the characters in the episode that, didn't have like huge roles to play. I'll start with the youngest of the crew, little Erica. Can't spell America without it. Yeah, she's a mega brat, but she cracks me up. Her timing's hilarious. The sassing between she and Bald Eagle Murray. It was just ridiculous and hilarious. I do think that as the youngest of them and everything, they maybe should have just like sent her on her way just to totally keep her out of harm's way. But, I like that she was up with Dustin up at the top of the tower, away from the goings on as much as possible. And that was fitting anyway, too, since she kind of, I don't want to say bonded with him, but, they had their moments in the rescue of Robin and Steve. So they were kind of their own little nerdy unit. And he was the one to call her on her nerdiness. So I like that they were together in that. And I do like at the end where she was the recipient of, some of their stuff. It's like the nerdiness is being passed on. She's hilarious. Crazy Murray did his part and he survived, which is nice. He's always entertaining. I think I said in the episode where he came back and he was speaking Russian and stuff that it was a bit of a stretch that there would be like someone fluent in Russian in small town Indiana. However, I think with Murray you can totally get away with it because he's just all into conspiracy theories. He's a former journalist. We don't know his background or what brought him to this small town. So, I think that was a really good way to utilize his character. And I am very glad that he survived. If there is a season 4, I'm hoping to see him again. I'm hoping he has some sort of role to play. Maybe he had something to do with the expose about the conspiracy theory of Hawkins. Who knows? Oh, Paul Reiser. His reappearance was far too brief. I understand that if all the government helicopters and men had gotten there in time, then there wouldn't have been, the rest of the story. But it was really great to see him, if only briefly. I thought that there might be more to the Carrie Elway's character of the mayor, but he did a good job. He got his comeuppance in the end, and there you go. I really loved, first of all, I had faith that Dustin was telling the truth. He wasn't making up that he had a girlfriend. He was very sincere about it. He was very steadfast about it when people were accusing him of, you're making this up. No one's as hot and as smart as that. So I loved the Susie reveal. But not just that, or just her inclusion in it, or I love that the justification of her existence had to do with the plot. Like, they needed her for something. And I thought that was a really clever way of both confirming that the character existed and having character development for Dustin and Dusty Bun and Susie Poo, but also that it was important to the plot. I really loved that. And they're just adorable as hell. Now, I knew the Never Ending Story song. That was familiar to me. That's one of the few sort of fantasy movies of the 80s that I missed out on. I actually have never seen it. I've only seen a couple of scenes from it. Dark Crystal, 82. I saw it. That horrible movie, Krull, 83. Saw it. The only good part of it being there was a early Liam Neeson role and Robbie Coltrane role. Terrible movie. I loved it back then. So I have never seen The Neverending Story. I may have to change that. Maybe there'll be a movie night on Patreon. I don't know. Tangent. I feel like Lucas didn't have a whole lot to do this time around. I mean, he was kind of like the love guru for Mike, teaching him the ways of winning women. And he was the one to get the firecrackers, which turned out to be incredibly helpful. So there was that. But I felt like overall he didn't have as much to do. I think he's had that problem before. He's always kind of been like the odd man out a little bit. Particularly in the first season when he literally was the odd man out. And he didn't like Elle and got kicked out of the group. So maybe we'll see more for him next season. I'll say next year. But I don't know when the next season's coming out, if it comes out. I had liked in the previous season that he had the whole storyline with Max and everything. And I guess that continued, but it wasn't really explored. It was just kind of established that they're still together, but they break up a lot and they get back together and break up a lot and get back together. So his character just didn't have a whole lot of growth or development. But I do like him quite a lot. Poor Will. Will did not get as beat up by the Upside Down or any monsters nearly as much as he has in the past 2 seasons. I'm really grateful for that because that kid needs a damn break. And he kind of sort of got one. But he spent the season being at odds with how all of his friends were moving on and, you know, all the romantic subplots sort of taking importance. And he was still wanting to stay in this space of, you know, being with his friends and playing games and stuff, which is fine. It's interesting now, at the end of it, he and Elle are actually going to be spending a whole hell of a lot more time together while being separated from Mike. You know, Will was so upset at sort of Elle taking away Mike and Mike's attention being so drawn to Elle, and now neither of them are going to have Mike in their lives, but they're going to have each other. And I was always thinking, like, I really wish that Elle and Will would develop their own friendship because they could bond so much over, you know, the traumatic experiences that they've had with the Upside Down. It might help him to talk about it, might help her to talk about it. So hopefully that will happen. I find that kind of ironic. And in the same sense, you have that with the Mike, Elle, Max situation. You know, Elle and Max didn't get along last season, but they became really fast friends and, you know, sort of had a lot of girl bonding, and Mike was very upset about that. I mean, he was upset about their breakup, but he was also sort of blaming Max for it and just seeing Max as this wedge between he and Elle, and now he won't have Elle anymore. I mean, he'll have her. Obviously they professed their love for each other, which was adorable, but, you know, they won't be living near each other, so. As we're speaking of Mike, I think he kind of along the same lines as Lucas. He and Lucas had their whole, like, season of trying to figure out women, girls. And he got scared to death by Hopper, but... And I really love how much he feels for Elle and that he's there for her and everything. But he had a very supporting role this time around. I mean, it's really tough when you have such a large cast of sort of giving everyone like a little bit of room to shine. I think Max got her turn. I think Will got his turn. Lucas and Mike kind of, sort of. Definitely Dustin got his turn. I mean, even despite the fact that he was sort of separated from the other kids. I mean, he got caught up in the entire Scoops Ahoy Russian Silver Cat business and had his own adventure with Erica. I actually think Erica had more to do than either Mike or Lucas, which is odd. But I'm not complaining because I really like Erica. It's fine. Dustin's a really interesting mix of being very calm under pressure when he has the knowledge that he needs to have. And then, but when he's in the thick of it and he just, his high-pitched scream just cracks me up. But I love that he always comes through with the tech and the knowledge. It's very smart. He's very quick on his feet. Dustin's the man. He really is. I've always loved Dustin. I think Nancy and Jonathan had their own nice, mini story. Their story kind of had an arc to it. Jonathan was bugging me early on, just because what seemed obvious to me as a viewer should be obvious to him being in it. But also being an experienced Hawkins resident. He has been through this before. He knows the warning signs. I always think that both he and Joyce should be on high alert all the time. Like, not should choose to be, but like just by nature, just by having gone through these traumas in the past, wouldn't they already be on like, oh, what's going to happen? But he eventually caught on to what was going on. He was fine. I always enjoy Nancy and Jonathan. Steve. Steve's had a really interesting arc, hasn't he? He went from being just the biggest douchebag on the planet in the beginning. I mean, he even had a great arc just in the season 1 alone. And in season 2, being dumped, and I think he sort of put all of his attention and all of his love on Nancy last season. And when she broke up with him, he really didn't seem to have anyone else in his life. His friends had ditched him the year before because of all of this business that was going on. And then he kind of bonded with the kids, which was all really sweet to see. But I like that he had Robin, someone his age, to, have a friendship with. I really enjoyed Robin. Along with Dustin, she is like the MVP for figuring out the code and figuring out how to get the plans of the building and just all this stuff. She was really invaluable. I really liked her. I enjoyed the twist of just sort of where you thought things might be going with Steve and Robin, and then nope. And I kind of appreciate that. I really like, Steve, who has, he was like a ladies' man, and I think it's going to be good for him to have a girlfriend who is just a friend. I actually like it better that it turned out this way than like, oh, Steve gets a romance with a different kind of girl. I like that outcome a lot. I also really liked Joyce this season. I thought that she was a lot more stable and confident, even given having what she'd gone through in the previous 2 seasons. That she seemed a lot more even-keeled, but she did not lose her suspicions. Like, she knows this game. She knows what living in Hawkins can be. So the second that things start getting weird, she's on alert. And I'm like, there you go, Joyce. For the most part, she keeps her cool. So I feel like she's really grown as a character. I definitely understand still grieving over Bob, because not only did you lose a boyfriend, you saw it, and it was horrific. So you have sort of like double trauma of having seen it. As I said before in some of the previous videos, I was not a big fan of just how long the screaming matches went on between she and Hopper. I think I don't know if it's just sort of a function of having a shorter season and that the story actually takes place within, a week? But I feel like those two got stuck in a mode and they never got to break out of it. I do love that they showed Joyce in different situations, sort of not just as a mom. I want to say just a mom, because that is, crucial. It's nice to see her out and about and really handling herself. And I was really loving the idea of Joyce joining the police force. I could have seen it. Cadet Joyce. I like it. Absolutely agree with her decision to move from Hawkins. Absolutely, 100%. Who could blame her? I mean, enough is enough. The moving scene just kind of killed me because anytime you move away from an established group of friends, it's really tough. But also when it's around the age of the younger kids, it's just devastating. I remember having to move 3 times when I was younger, 2 or 3 times when I was younger. And just being torn away from your best friends is like, ugh, I don't know how far, I think he said, I can't remember how far away they moved, but I mean, it's a traumatic experience. So that really got me. And I do hate that Joyce had yet another experience of losing someone. Don't think he's dead. But to her, he is dead. And being there to see it, and probably a little guilt of having a hand in it, although I mean there was nothing else that she could do, and Hopper was like, yes, you need to do this. So hopefully she doesn't have guilt, but I could understand if like a little bit crept in there, because you always think, oh, what could I have done differently? But now Hopper, I have to say, in this episode, I loved Hopper so much. This episode kind of got to his core of, you know, everything that he said in that final letter of finally opening up and loving. And, you know, we've seen him be vulnerable before. We've seen him be vulnerable in season 1 in the flashbacks, and we saw him be vulnerable season 2 with Elle and the truck and the conversation he had and just going with her into the Upside Down near the gate. So we've had, you know, moments of vulnerable Hopper before, but this was like heart pouring out onto a letter. Like, oh, you know, and his nurturing, caring side. I like, I love Hopper as a sort of a, just an angry curmudgeon. I loved him in series 1, and in series 2, did I say series 2? Ugh. Too much Doctor Who. And in series 2 as well, his temper did get the best of him. And I feel like this season, it really, I mean, the situation with Mike and Elle just drove him into a frenzy, which I thought was a little overblown, but it was so hilarious. I thought, okay, they're playing this for laughs. And then Joyce stands him up, and he goes ballistic over that. And he never really came down from that until, like, this past episode. And so it just makes me wonder, like, I didn't quite get the writing of Hopper this season. Just because I feel like they played him primarily for laughs. I found him very funny, but I just, they kind of turned him into a little bit, I think I said cartoony last time. It's not so much that, like just a buffoon. And he has that side to him, but that's not all he is. So I was just relieved at the end that sort of another aspect of Hopper came through finally. So I love Hopper. I really do. I think he's great. I love David Harbour. I think that Hopper is either in the Upside Down or he's the American that they're holding. So those are my theories. I hope I'm right. I feel like you couldn't kill Hopper. I don't know. And as far as Elle goes, I really loved her this season as well. I thought that she really grew, you know, when she kind of pry her away from Mike, and the friendship between Max and Elle was so great. And she just got to learn and grow and experience life. And I thought it was so great how when she went into Billy's mind in sort of that mid-plane between our world and the Upside Down, I really liked how when they showed us Billy's sort of history, they showed us Billy as not a jerk yet, before he'd been sort of transformed by his father's behavior. And at the time, that last episode, I think it was episode 7, I thought, oh, that's really nice. They're, you know, giving us some glimpse of Billy to humanize him. And that is true. And I really appreciate that. But I thought it was really key what they showed, because Elle having a mom that she kind of lost, but hasn't lost, but she is lost to her. I mean, for all intents and purposes. Elle knows what a deep, connection. She knows what that loss is. And I like that was sort of the key to reaching Billy. Not just a humanizing moment for Billy, but that Elle could understand that, the impact of having a mom just not be in your life, but she's out there somewhere. So that I found was really touching on a character level and a plot level, and that was very key. I love that. I don't know if Elle's powers will ever come back. I'm thinking that they will. I'm a little suspicious of what's happening to her, the no powers, but she also had something from the Upside Down in her system, and Will has had things from the Upside Down in his system and has fundamentally changed him, so worries me a little, but I'm glad both of them are out of there. It'll be interesting to see in the next season how they get pulled back into the story, but perhaps because they have both had this kind of thing happen to them, that it'll be easier for the Upside Down to sort of be drawn to them wherever they are. Like they're marked or something. I don't know. Speculation. And I kind of left Billy for last because, as I said, I do love that they humanized him a bit, and all of that exchange between him and Elle was very touching. And I do think that sacrificing your life to save other people's lives redeems you. I mean, in just sort of the great grand scheme of things, it's difficult because it is just one act against many horrible acts. But the one act is so big that, yeah, I think karmically kind of does wipe out the other stuff. But I just keep having this image of, Billy trying to run down the boys on their bikes. But yeah, I do remember saying early on in the season that I did want him to die, and I got my wish, but I oops. But I do love that they humanized him a bit before the death, so that, the death itself wasn't the thing that makes you feel bad about it. They give you a little understanding of him beforehand. And then that makes the actual death, like, that was so sad. And it makes me feel really horrible for Max, because she has, joined the ranks of people on the show who have had to watch family die horrible deaths. Anyway, a very sad and moving ending to the series, to the episode. And last but not least, the return of the Demogorgon. Hello. I was trying to think, is he a Demodog, Demogorgon? I guess they're the same thing, just different stages of life, maybe? I'm not sure. This time he was all CGI'd up. It wasn't too much of a difference, but I stand by my earlier statements that when it's like a real tangible object, it's kind of scarier. But the effects on the show are amazing. This season was nasty as hell. It was really gross. It was tough for me to take, but I was really impressed by all the effects and the creature work and everything. I thought the performances were really strong this season. It was not the season of Hopper and Joyce. But, perhaps next season. I don't know. I always kind of wonder if the lab rats, the other experimented upon people from last season that we discovered, number 8, I always wonder if that storyline is ever going to come back, because it seems like such an important thing connecting with the Upside Down. I didn't mind the whole, Russian, they're trying to weaponize and whatever it was that they were doing. But we didn't really get into that too much, so they remained just this kind of distant villain. I think the lab, Papa, and Paul Reiser's other fellow doctors. Just that entity was a little scarier because you could see all the experiments and stuff they were doing, the impact that it had on people. Not that the Russians weren't scary, they were torturing kids, which is like, what? But I just wonder if that aspect is going to come back. And I still wonder if what that guy said about Papa, Dr. Brenner, being alive, I don't know. Maybe he's the American being held by Russians. I don't know. It's hard to imagine how he could be alive, given the ferocity with which the Demogorgon pounced on him. But you just never know with this show. Never know. So yeah, overall, it was a great season. I can't decide. Season 1 is always going to be, I think, gold standard. It's a great show, season 1. Season 2, I know people weren't thrilled with the Elle standalone and the 80s gang. And I had my issues with that, but I really did love the exploration of Elle's past and the existence of another person who had powers and who are all these other people and reconnecting with her mom. So I really, about the second season, really loved that story quite a bit. Last season did not like how much Elle was separated from the gang. I wish they'd been together a little more. But I loved the other story a lot. This time around, it was, primarily, like the personal stories were primarily about relationships. And I love a good relationship. But there were, but I think even more so than romantic relationships, you had this theme, I think, of being unable to move on. Will had so much trouble moving on, like accepting the fact that his friends were growing up and getting girlfriends and stuff. And Joyce was having a hard time moving on from Hopper, and just this theme of sort of life changing and, again, all the stuff that Hopper said in his last letter at the end. So that, I think, more than anything was what this season was all about. Which is very bittersweet. So, hard to say where overall season 3 falls on the scale for me. There are things I loved about it, and there's also things I loved about season 2. So, I don't know. Right now, it's a bit of a toss-up. Maybe season 2 just a smidge, just because of the story that I like so much about Elle's past. I don't know. Requires more thinking. But anyway, I'm sad that the show is over, hoping for a 4th season. Really glad to experience this, watching this with you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the reactions. Please feel free to give them a like, a share, and a subscribe. Full reactions are on Patreon. Let me know what you thought of the season in general and this episode in the comments below. And hopefully I'll be able to catch the next one with y'all. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.